Wow.
We're a little bit on the struggle bus with tech here, folks.
What in the world is all that?
So if the tech facilitator might potentially come and help Karen, that'd be fantastic.
Registrants, by the way.
Okay, fantastic. All right, today is January 13th, 2026, and I will call to order the Madison Common Council Executive Committee meeting. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Absolutely. President Vitiver.
Here.
Vice President Govindarajan.
Here.
Alder Ugair. Here. Alder Madison. Here. Alder Matthews. Here. I'm not saying the thing. President Vitiver is here. Vice President Govindarajan here. Alder Ugair here. Alder Madison here. Alder Matthews here. Alder Lankella. Here. Alder Lankella is here. Alder Tischler is excused. Alder Figueroa Cole. All right, you do have quorum.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the 12/9/25 meeting.
Move to adopt.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote? Seeing none, we will record a unanimous vote to approve the minutes from last December. All right, do we have any public comment?
We do have a hand. Oh, now it went down. Sorry. There was a brief hand that came up, but it seemed to have resolved itself.
Okay, so we do not seem to have any registrants, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great, fantastic. We'll move on to disclosures or recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals on today's agenda? Seeing none, we will move on. And we are going to actually take up item 3 before item 2, just because Alder Govindarajan has to leave. So, sorry. Sorry,
Does
okay.
that need a motion? If so, I motion to move item 3 up first.
It's with, if there's no objection from the body.
Is there any objection from the body to moving 3 up? Okay. All right, so item 3 is amending section 33.32 of the Madison General Ordinances related to the Joint Campus Area Committee to modify the composition and duties of JCAC. We don't have any registrants, I assume?
Correct.
So can we get a motion on this first?
Motion to adopt.
I'll take Alder.
Sorry, motion to recommend to council.
Okay, then I'll take Alder Ugair as the second. Fantastic. All right. So, do we have questions for staff, or we do not have a staff presentation, right? Or you do want to? No. Okay. Do we have questions for staff? I am seeing no questions for staff. Do we have any discussion on this item? I'm seeing no discussion. So do we have any objection to recording a unanimous vote? Seeing no objection, then we will record that as a unanimous vote to amend section 33.32 of the to recommend to council to amend to section 33.32 of the Madison General Ordinances. All right, then that will take us to item 2. So, our guest presenter. Thank you.
How's that? Okay, that sounds good. Nice to see you all here. I think Carmela is zooming in. So, hi, Carmela. I just put together a summary report of the time that we spent together in September. I sent that over to Karen in December. I don't know if you've had a chance or just to look over it. I just was here to sort of offer sort of an opportunity for us to go over that together quickly and to see if you had any questions or thoughts that we could take away from it. So if you'll remember, what we did together back in September is we were sort of exploring the complexity of constituent dynamics, both through this lens of like all the way from like agreement to threats and violence and this whole spectrum in between of conflict and what we mean by conflict, and then how we hold that and honestly normalize, especially that middle range, right? That this is really just part of what it means to be in a public life together, to be in democracy. We don't always get to choose who we interact with in those spaces. And then we actually spent a good amount of time on thinking about these different models of representative leadership. Like, what kind of representative do you want to be? And it, again, was on this spectrum from the terminology was like delegate to trustee, where delegate, you are there to sort of be the conduit for your district's viewpoints for your constituents. And then trustee is you are elected to use your judgment to really, be taking in what your district is telling you, and then really to be invoking your own lived experience and your own judgment and wisdom and knowledge, and to be making decisions based on that. And then sort of this whole spectrum of possibility in between of how you hold those things. And sort of the idea there was that if you are showing up with some intentionality about what kind of representative you are, it will actually help get ahead of a lot of the tension that can exist in those conversations with constituents, because you can be clear, you can be proactive, you can articulate your values, and then afterwards really sort of be able to reflect on why you voted the way you did. And then we did this exercise where you got to share kind of what you thought were the most important aspects of your role. So we went over all these different possible roles, like messenger and translator, equity champion, public steward, bridge builder, and folks ranked what they thought was important and then where they were comfortable. And so the biggest gaps between importance and comfort came out in the roles of messenger and translator, public trustee, constituent service provider, and descriptive and substantive representative. So basically those areas were the areas that alders felt like were really important, but were just not having quite as much confidence around, like their learning curve around some of these things. And I imagine some of that has to do with how long you've been on the council and how much time you've had to really just absorb all of the workings of city government and policy. So that was sort of the overview of it. And I think fundamentally, like, our goal was really to help provide some intentionality. Like, you guys are thrown into these roles, and how do you, just giving you a moment to step back so you can decide how you want to show up and be be clear, be proactive, so that when the inevitable disagreements arise, you know where you stand. And it's a lot easier to sort of practice curiosity, to practice leadership, to practice self-regulation in those settings when you feel grounded in your own, sort of in your values and in the way that you want to be a leader. So that was sort of the summary of it. Anything? Any questions,
Questions,
comments?
comments? I'm noting that I think future candidates will find this resource quite interesting because it has a lot of insight from those of us who've served and would really be helpful to those who are seeking to serve.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to thank you all too. I appreciate your trust and really just enjoy that container, like all the different aspects of what it means to be in your roles and to like navigate being a private citizen and a public person at the same time. And so I appreciate that. I think it's such an important moment in this country for us to be able to pause and really be able to talk and think about these things because of the way that politics is and is not working in the greater context. So, thank you.
Alder Ugair now has.
Thank you, President. I just wanted to thank you as well for a great session. I'm just going to reiterate what President Vitiver just said, that I think there's a lot of use here for orientation at some point of the inevitable new cohorts of alders that we'll be seeing. It's somebody who, came in midterm, but got to see a lot of things. It was an interesting perspective after this last election and meeting the new alders and then watching their reactions as some of these inevitable stressors came up. And I think the curriculum you put together was very appropriate in dealing with some of those emotions that I could see and still have myself at times. But thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Great. All right. We are going to move on to the next agenda item. So one of the things that I identified as I came in is that our fantastic chief of staff has not had the opportunity to have any kind of an annual evaluation. So I worked with HR, the HR director, to develop an evaluation tool that is primarily for the purpose of helping Karen or whomever comes into the role in the eventuality to have a successful place. It is a weird role, just to be clear, right? Karen answers to 20 people. That is not a typical work environment. And so we want to try to set up processes that really protect the chief of staff and make sure that the person can be successful in the role, regardless of who is coming in both to council and to leadership. So what we presented to you today, and I just want to be clear that this was developed alongside HR director as well as Karen. So this was, and the vice president. So it was a collective endeavor. So what we have here is a draft of the performance evaluation for the Common Council Chief of Staff by the Executive Committee. And so we are looking for feedback. Is there anything?
Just let them know that how you want this to play out, that you'd like them to do that yet this term before you're done, right?
Yes. So what we're looking for is your feedback on anything that you think should be modified for this so that then we can actually do this exercise with Karen before the end of this term, so meaning before April. And then I will use that information to then set up her performance plan for the next year, which will then serve as the guide for the next leadership coming in. And then the next year's executive committee will then evaluate chief of staff performance at the end of that period. And then again, that leadership team will set up her performance evaluation for the following year. Does this make sense? Alder Madison.
Thank you. I think I just have more like process-oriented questions. So CCEC would evaluate Karen, but how are we receiving information from the other folks who don't serve on CCEC? Like, are we going to, have a way for people to submit, I don't know, just a comment or two or send an email as part of the process? Just about experience.
I think it's a great question. I mean, my first response is, of course, CCEC is available to any and all alders, and this is part of Legistar, so they can engage in any way that they want, but we certainly can actually elicit the feedback directly.
I think having a way to solicit feedback, I don't think our feedback should be anonymous, I guess, but I mean, being able to solicit feedback is important. And then also, because we also are measuring for the office staff relationships or operations. So have you all talked about how to solicit feedback from them as well?
We have not talked about that directly, but we can do that.
Yeah, so soliciting feedback from both staff and other alders. And then the last one is, I think the protections are there, but I'm really so just trying to understand, what are the protections for Karen about her performance and her evaluation outside of CCEC, if that makes sense? Is it just the standard HR process?
Yeah, so
like if Karen finds our assessment to be wholly in the wrong direction and she disagrees with it, which, I always try to think of the scenario.
Yes.
So how does Karen address? I would imagine she can come to CCEC or come to, president and vice president and have those conversations. But I'm just thinking about what is the other level of protection, I guess, or support?
it's a very complex question, I think, because ultimately the chief of staff serves for the council. And so she has a contract.
Yep.
So, and I'm going to ask you to jump in here if you have anything that you want to add.
Yeah, I think the reason we started with the CCEC evaluation is because CCEC under ordinance is the body that does this work. So that's the reason why we wanted to make sure that this body had a tool for doing that work. So I don't know if I cited the ordinance in there or not, but I can get you the ordinance so that you have that to see. That is why we're asking CCEC to provide feedback, because literally it's CCEC in the ordinance that is responsible for giving me that kind of feedback. So that's why. Yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to say, because yeah, this is unique. I mean, this is based on the library board, but that's even different from us because the library board is one body of 12 or 10 or whoever, and
I'm on library board.
right, exactly. What I'm saying is it's one body.
Yeah.
And this is, CCEC is established as the body that is supposed to
Perform the evaluation.
provide me with feedback
Yes. Yep.
to help me improve and et cetera. But that's a subset of the larger body, which makes it even different from the library board. So there is no equivalent. Us is the only one of us in the city that is structured exactly this way. So the contract has an appeal. It just depends on what you mean by that. If you all provide me with what I believe will be, helpful, constructive feedback, right? And then I will figure out what to do with that. And every 5 years, my contract comes up, and that's the whole council voting on that. So, I guess I feel like you should be able to give me feedback. I should be able to sort of process that feedback. But that, in the city, that it's not the same as like in other places where they actually like they make it a contingent. This is just, it's really like helpful.
Yeah.
In case, so.
So the only thing, the last thing I guess I would just say is, just having some sort of language that would advise whomever is serving as, on CCEC to also seek like HR, to have a discussion. I'm not saying that HR needs to approve of anything, but I think that, so on library board, we worked with HR to develop it all. And we know that we can, circle back to HR and have more discussions about how we might proceed on something. I guess I just want to be clear that if there is some tension, not saying that this will ever happen, if there's ever any tension where there's disagreement between Karen and CCEC or whatever, who is in between to help manage it? I know that can get dicey.
I mean, ultimately, yes, we can go to HR for assistance, but there isn't anyone in between.
Yeah.
It is CCEC oversees the
Yep.
chief of staff.
So I guess maybe what I'm just saying, just to have some language that's included that talks about at minimum seeking the advice of the person who leads in HR, as we're working on these processes, like seeking their counsel on it is what, because we're not all HR professionals,
Right.
so.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Alder Figueroa Cole, I saw your hand up.
I'm wondering, are we going to have a presentation of what you guys are proposing,
So
or we're just randomly talking about what we expected to see?
The evaluation tool is in Legistar, associated with this item. Do you want me to go through it? Is that what you're asking?
Are you going to introduce it, or you just asking for questions about the information already provided? That's what I'm trying to get at.
So right now, we're introducing it for your perusal and feedback. And then we will finalize it and then implement it.
Okay, so can we just get a quick overview of what you guys are trying to accomplish, and then maybe go from there, please?
Sure. So we're trying to, again, set up a process for actually providing an annual level of feedback for the chief of staff position. And so what this is, that's in Legistar, is you'll see a evaluation tool to help you, guide you in different aspects of the chief of staff's position and how you believe, from your perspective, the chief of staff is meeting or not meeting expectations. And then, of course, there's an unable to assess. So, for example, if you can't assess how the chief of staff is supervising office staff, for example, if you really are like, I don't know, I don't engage in that at all, I've never heard anything about that, then you would just say, don't know. And so it is designed to be a way for the leadership, so the president and the vice president, to get feedback from the CCEC and then provide a consolidated feedback to the chief of staff about performance and opportunities for improvement, and then use that to develop the next year's planning goals. Is that helpful?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, are these, so we're just gonna get this on like a standalone document, like this tool, for example? Is there a reason why we are not using the peer review process that the city uses for evaluations?
So it is because it's this weird position. So this is somewhat based in that process, but it's more akin to the library director and the Office of Independent Monitor, which answer to boards. So,
But I don't know, maybe I suppose I gather you guys did talk to staff about this, but I have completed multiple evaluations for staff that they had asked me to provide input, and the questions are not always the same questions. They seem to be different. So there's no potential to just have our own set of questions, but use the tool.
So
okay, wait. I think Attorney Haas wants to say something, and then I think we have Director Hilson is going to join us in a moment.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was just going to note that if Alder Figueroa Cole, if you're referring to the the 360 evaluation
Yes.
tool.
Thank you.
Typically, that's not done on an annual basis. I believe HR is moving to a process where they like to have it done at the time that contracts are up for renewal. It's not a tool that's used on an annual basis. The city, contracts with an outside firm to conduct that. And so you maybe have been asked to provide input, but it's not, like I said, it's not an annual evaluation tool. It's just done periodically for agency heads.
Okay. And then on regards to in that case, for example, I don't know if there's any public record that comes out of that. I will imagine that's personal and is protected. So I wouldn't think that, I'm wondering the feedback that is provided for this particular, under this particular process, would that also be protected then? Or how would that work?
Yeah, so the feedback from the CCEC will be delivered to the council president and the council vice president to be able to consolidate the feedback and provide it to Karen or whoever is in the chief of staff position, so that it can be, an appropriate kind of annual evaluation conversation. And again, using that to set the goals for the next year. So it will be like any other HR protected engagement. The
Personal.
yeah. So the only thing that is public is the fact that this tool is going in the legislative record, and you're going to approve the tool, and that's what's going to be in the legislative record. Am I missing anything?
I think
And Aaron, did you want to add anything?
Hi there. I didn't get exactly what the question was, but I did hear Alder Figueroa Cole ask a little bit about why we were not using sort of the executive check-in process that's used for other department and division heads. And one of the chief reasons for that is because that's really set up as a sort of one-on-one process, whereas this position, while it sort of reports directly to a council president, it really serves 20 people. And so in order to get really quality feedback, needs a more thorough process that gets input from a variety of folks. So we really modeled it after that evaluation process of the library director, and are using the same format for the independent police monitor position.
Okay. So then thank you, Aaron. And then my last question was on regards to in times where there might be conflict or further discussion that may be needed, as the body that I don't know how the library does it, but as the body that takes care of this particular position, I suppose that any of those conflicts can be handled in a closed session, right? Like, I think I've seen closed sessions for personal matters done in other boards.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So typically what would happen is that the form would be filled out, but the evaluation itself would be discussed as a personnel matter. The evaluation would often be attached to the discussion item. So the document itself might be there, but you would typically enter closed session to discuss the evaluation and any potential next steps with that evaluation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Those are the questions I have for now. Oh, one more question. So when Alder Figueroa, you said that we eventually will be approving this tool. So are we approving the tool as a as a matter of reference, or are we approving this tool as a matter of like every single time we want to change a question, we have to change the resolution?
Yeah. It's
Are
a
we
really good
referencing?
question.
Yeah.
It's a really good question, and I don't think I know the answer to that right now. I think that probably it
Yeah.
has to be this one because
If I could just, I think what you would want to do is basically indicate that the tool may be modified, but that this is generally the standardized process you'd use, what cadence you would be using that evaluation tool, and I would assume that only really significant changes to the tool would need to go through this sort of process before using it. So we would be able to modify. You're sort of approving use of the tool and the cadence. Like, are you doing this on an annual basis? Are you doing this every 2 years on 5-year contract basis? How often are you doing it? And I would think you would want to leave it so that modifications to that tool don't really require you to go through this body, just because there would be small changes, like a rephrasing of a question here,
Yeah,
rephrasing
I
of a
definitely
question.
wouldn't like to approve each question, because again, that just
Yeah.
changes with priorities.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with revising, having a methodology to do revisions every year or to whatever, or to just say we're not changing it or we're making this change. But I wouldn't want to approve the actual specific questions of it. So
Yeah.
that's all I got for now. Thank you.
thank you. That was super helpful. Alder Linkella.
Yeah, thanks to Alder Figueroa Cole. Most of my questions answered. Still have a couple of. So the tool is going to be kind of like an online tool, or is it a third-party tool? How is that
So we haven't
delivered to us?
We haven't decided that yet, but I do think it merits discussion of whether you want it to be anonymous or not. If you want it to be anonymous, then an online mechanism is really easy to do that. If you don't want it to be anonymous, then certainly it could be, done via email. Again, it will be submitted to the president and vice president. So it's not going to be submitted to Karen, it's going to be submitted to the president and the vice president. But how the mechanism that we do that, I would love to get feedback.
So we have to decide right now whether it is going to be anonymous or not, or.
We're having a discussion.
Okay, yeah, it's just, and then we're also discussing on the time frame when this is going to be, whether it is annual or biannual.
My humble opinion is it should be annual. That's
Annual. If it is annual, is there a timeline? Like is like December of every year or
Yep, so it's
September?
laid out so that it hits so that it is completed before the end of the term. So it's completed before April, so that the outgoing president and vice president is setting the goals for the following year. And then whoever takes the mantle in April is now then responsible for carrying out the next annual review and setting the next goal setting. So it's always, the outgoing president is doing the goal setting and the next year's president is doing the evaluation and then doing the next.
That at least that one is now decided that April is the time frame we wanted to.
It has to be completed by.
Yeah.
I should say, decided, this is my suggestion, this is what I envisioned. But if you all think this is what I do in my job, right? I get evaluated annually and have a goal setting annually. It seems to work well. It's kind of what I experience in most effective run organizations. So,
Yeah.
but if you have other ideas, please.
No, that's all I have. A question on when are we doing it and how are we doing it, right? That was the two. This needed clarity on.
And Aaron, you have your hand up. Did you want to kick in on that?
Yeah, so typically we would load this up in a SurveyMonkey so that it could be implemented very easy online. So we would load that up in a SurveyMonkey. We would send out the SurveyMonkey. We would analyze the results, and we would provide the president and vice president with a report at the end of that evaluation process. And I would just share that typically when we do 360 evaluations, those are fairly anonymous, but obviously the annual executive check-in that employees go through with the mayor is not at all anonymous. It's direct feedback from the mayor. So that would be a choice that you could make, but we do already have a mechanism for doing this. The sort of how isn't, I don't know if you need any more details than that, but that's the how.
If you're setting for future precedents, right? So I think maybe anonymous might be a better option to go with. Yeah.
I mean,
That's my opinion.
yeah, I think that this is an existing process and would be unwise to not use it. Double negative.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alder Uguer.
Thank you, President Bitterberg. Well, let me start out by saying that in this unusual 20-to-1 situation, that I found it helpful when I approach the chief of staff on a variety of issues. Rather than thinking about having 1/20th of her bandwidth, I think of her as my boss. And that seems to simplify the whole process. I'm just, how high should I jump? But obviously that doesn't work here. And I guess my attitude about all of this is conditioned somewhat by the fact that back in the day, when I was managing several thousand people in 11 different locations and couldn't be changing behavior with a water cooler conversation most of the time, and telephone often wasn't a good way to use it, that these annual reviews were important. And I will say that I screwed them up pretty badly in several situations, not recognizing the breadth of different personalities that I was dealing with and their relative sensitivity to criticism and so forth. But what I do want to say is that I think the several categories that are in here, they're as good as anything. Okay, I think they would allow a discussion of most of the things that are important. Might make a little bit of mess, but there could be a place at the end to say, is there any other category that we haven't talked about where you would like to make a particular comment about high performance, or where you would like a change in the way certain things are handled? Because I looked at these things back then as, after a lot of early missteps, as a really way to change behavior, which often was not, you're doing a terrible job. It's, out of all of the things you do, these are, I want to recommend that you change your priorities on some things because you're smart, and I know you wouldn't have your job if you weren't smart, but I'd like you to pay more attention to this area in your limited time, because we need to make progress there. And that seemed to go over well. And the other thing, and I think I hear you saying this, President Vitiver, is that the president and vice president would be collecting this and presenting it. And what I found was that an opportunity to include in that process a face-to-face process where the evaluators and the evaluee could ask questions and exchange it and look for more information. Sometimes you didn't have it. You had to go find out more things about that. But out of that process, one of the things that happens is, okay, there's the sense of mutual respect out of this thing. We're not here to just to beat you over the head, or to, we're looking for a way to open communication. I say, change results. And if that requires change behavior, fine, but to change the results for continuous improvement. So again, overall, I think the categories in here are as good as anything. You might look at the catch-all, because over a series of years, if you kept finding people had to say things in a miscellaneous category, it might be an indication that you wanted to add something or change something in the basic report. I think it's a good start. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. You have your hand up?
I have all my hands up.
You have all your hands up. Go ahead.
Okay, so one thing I want to add to Alder Ugair, and Director Hilson had mentioned it as well. We have some processes. One thing that they do have in other processes that I think might address your Alder Ugair's request is a start, stop, continue. Mm-hmm. And it could be, I believe I've seen them where they kind of have it at the end, and if folks can do a start, stop, continue. So it's basically like, what would you like the person you're evaluating or, providing feedback to start? What would you suggest they stop? And what would you like them to continue doing? And that is something the city has been doing in other contexts. So I guess I'll offer that as a potential way to address your idea, to help focus folks, because that might, I don't know. That's one thought. I do want to say something about this anonymous thing. I feel incredibly strong about this. You're going to find that I have sometimes some pretty strong feelings, and this is one of them. I spent many years teaching at the university level, where people could provide not only a number, but also feedback, always anonymous, right? We did receive the individual documents so that I was able to see, is this person giving me all ones, and what are they saying about it, or what is each person's kind of thing. So that's helpful. But one thing that I found to be, it doesn't matter as much in a class that you're going to see, you're already on, you give in a class, you give the eval when you're on the way, when they're done. So it's not like a repeat, it's not a continuing relationship the same way our relationship is continuing. And I have found that people sometimes provide feedback that you want to follow up on, because maybe it's unclear. I'm not sure what to do with it. I'm not sure what you meant. I want to be able to follow up with everybody to make sure I'm getting their needs met and I'm understanding what they want me to understand. And that's very important to me. And so the president knows this. I'm pushing, I'm going to just put a pretty strong stand. I do not want this to be anonymous with you all, because I think you can tell me. If you can tell me, you can tell me to my face. And if I respect each one of you individually and as a group, and it's really important to me that I get it right and that I understand what you each want. I also think it helps people focus if they know that it's like having a conversation only on paper, as opposed to just knowing that I won't know who you are. But then it's like, for me, I guess it just makes it really challenging, because then I can't, if I know you, President Vitiver, I can go, oh, hey, I noticed that you had suggested, or that you really wanted X. I need to ask you a little bit more about X, because I want to get this. I want to nail this for you. So what exactly is, let's talk about X. And it gives an opportunity to really have that conversation. And then I know exactly what you want. And that I can't do anything with vague. I can't do anything with mysterious. And another thing I don't want, and this is not a commentary on our current president, it's more thinking about longevity or sustainability, whatever you want to say, like going 10 years into the mystery future where we never know who who's who, we get a new president every year, we get a new CCEC every year, we get new alders every 2 years. I want it to be set up so that there is not, how do I say it? Because the president is a 1-year term, I don't want them, how am I gonna say this? I don't want them to filter out everything. I wanna know I don't want there to be too much of a filter. It's one thing when you're in a workplace situation where you have a supervisor who also works there full time and isn't planning to cycle out every year or whatever. And you're building this relationship with your supervisor. And so then your supervisor is providing this information and that's who you're dealing with. This is not that. So I don't want to, and I also don't think you want the theoretical future you. I don't think the future you really wants to leave it in the hands of the president to get across what you each individually want to get across. I think you have to be very thoughtful about that because we don't know the dynamics in the future. We have no idea. So I just want to caution you about that. I think everybody should go on record, or not on record, but I think we should, it's a conversation to have. And I don't want there to be a lot of things in between so that I can't do what I need to do or get clarity where I need to get clarity. And I want you each to feel understood as best as I possibly can. I know that's a speech, but thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And I think you and I and Aaron maybe should sit down and talk through that a bit more. But I also do just want to encourage all of my colleagues to take any concerns to Karen at any time. She is here to serve us. And if there is anything that you have concerns about in terms of how she is operating or her staff are operating, she needs to know that. And this does need to be a trusting relationship. And so if there are issues that come up, I do ask that folks address them in the moment as best they can. Alder Figueroa Cole, please.
Thank you. And I do have to get going here in a few minutes, but I understand what those statements are coming from, but perhaps I do coming from a from a place of privilege where I do have where I do feel confident enough to go to Karen at any time and address the issues, however, at the moment or however as they come up. And it takes time, especially on this environment that is pretty fast moving, that there's so much thrown at others, especially the new ones. So it takes time for people to build these relationships. Most of you know, like Karen knows that for me, for example, I didn't even know there was a council office until my second year. So I didn't reach out to staff for the whole year when I first started. So they ask for, I will suggest that they ask of providing clear feedback be put on the person that provides that feedback. So if that feedback is not clearly stated, it's really not a burden from HR or Karen or the president to carry, in my opinion. So I had done many surveys in my lifetime, and there always been anonymous surveys, and I had no problem signing my name on them, most of them, because I don't care. If I have to say something, I'm just going to say it. This process to me is not just to collect like negative feedback. It also is very helpful to collect feedback, positive feedback of the things that have been done very well and that we want to continue to happen. So I am not opposed to the option for the user to provide their name or not provide their name. I think I prefer that it's anonymous, and if the person wants to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, and if you want more clarification, this is Janet, let you know. Obviously I'm not going to be doing that at this moment, because I do that already without this process in place, but it might be a little bit difficult for other people I think it's a big ask to ask new people that haven't had the chance to build relationships to put themselves out there, filling this survey. And also, most of us come from the professional environment, so most likely they're used to have the anonymous feedback to be presented. So I understand the wanting to serve us 100% plus, but at the end of the day, it's really not up to you guys to interpret what we're saying. If we want to have something to say, we can have the follow-up conversations and we can just get better about expressing what we need to express. I mean, if something is unclear and you guys can decipher that, I have no problem moving on with, you can make a blanket statement in the CCEC meeting. I got a comment. If I don't understand it, please reach out to me directly and we can talk about it or whatever. But I think there is value on having this be anonymous, and which allows for people to provide their name if they want to, for further clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Figueroa Cole. Appreciate it. I'm not seeing any other hands. Any other comments, ideas, discussion? Okay, so then I believe at our next meeting, we will come back with finalized tool and process. And we will vote on that, and then it'll be implemented. That'll be the plan. All right. I think we can move on to council office updates.
I just have to, unfortunately, because I had a family emergency, I wasn't able to dedicate time to writing out the updates. I apologize.
No worries.
Okay, thank you.
So we have no current updates, but they will come.
Yes, of course.
All right, future agenda items. So there are 3 items that are on the future agenda item requests. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think it's possible we might be able to get to at least 1 or 2 of them before the end of my term. Do we want to prioritize them? Is that up to me? Are there other additional items to add to the list? Let me start there with, are there additional items to add to the list first? Alder Uguer. Wait a minute.
Bitover, almost all alders at some point in time are going to be dealing with the process for a new development in their district. And if you haven't done that before, the complexity of the process, how a development works through the system, can be somewhat intimidating, and there are a lot of options. Is it going to have affordable housing? Is it a housing project, or is it some other kind of project? Is it going to take a conditional use permit? Is there going to be a demolition permit? And so it might be helpful to have something more than could be covered in the initial new Alder orientation to really go through that process.
Love it.
So, new development process.
Thank you. Great idea. Other suggestions for future agenda items? Okay. So does anybody want to spend time prioritizing these, or do you feel like you're okay with leaving that up to leadership? I'm giving you an either or. Okay, leadership will decide, but I kind of almost feel like what Alder Uguer offered is really good, especially perhaps at the beginning of the terms. So I'm wondering if that's something that we want to put in place, like for April or May.
So like an overview.
Yeah.
Of what to, okay.
Like what to expect in a development if there's a new development in your district, and then obviously that'd be recorded and then can be a resource for folks. I really like that idea. It also could be a council discussion item, but I don't know. We'll have to, I think we need to do it. It's a question of what is the vehicle to do it. But it's a really good idea. Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All right. Is there any objection to adjournment? Seeing none, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.